Batman Arkham City may be one of the most popular games ever made, but nothing is as popular as Mexican Batman. Hello everyone, David here.
I gotta take this thing off. Whew. Alright, let's go ahead and do this review properly. Get stuff out of my eyes, get my hair adjusted here. This is one mask. I wish I could have had a better mask, but I remember I wore this, Batman, when I was 12. Hey everyone, David here. In the wake of the release of Batman Arkham Origins, I figured it would be appropriate to release the predecessor to Batman Arkham Origins, or I should say the successor, because technically Arkham Origins is a prequel. So okay, let's not get too confused here. Here I am to review Batman Arkham City. If you haven't already guessed, this is the Game of the Year edition, so like all Game of the Year editions that I review, I'm going to go ahead and review the main game first, give it its score, and then afterwards I'm going to go ahead and talk about the DLC. Developer Rocksteady returns after the success of Arkham Asylum, and the story for Arkham City is one of those stories for video games that I kind of prefer to go ahead and be as vague as possible, so that way you can go into it as fresh as possible. All you need to know is that it takes place about a year and a half after the events of Arkham Asylum, and this city, dubbed Arkham City, has been developed within the grounds of Gotham City. And when Batman finds himself stranded inside it, it is up to him to discover the secrets behind the development of the city, as well as battle all the villains that are constructing mayhem and destruction inside of it. The story for this game does what a sequel is supposed to do. It's bigger, it's broader, it takes 2 or 3 plots and weaves them into one another within a larger setting. In this case, it's Arkham City, bigger than the last game, Arkham Asylum. And something that sort of caught me off guard, but eventually I grew to really love, is that the game starts off right off the bat in Arkham City. There's no straightforward background story to how Arkham City came about, how it is that Hugo Strange managed to create this city, and why Batman finds himself in it. But as the story progresses, clues start to drop in and stuff becomes unraveled that shows you how this city came about, why it is that it's there, and why is Batman in there trying to solve everything. And as much fun as I was having with the story, I will admit that for me it got just a little convoluted somewhere in the middle, more towards the end of the second act, if you want to call it that. But it managed to redeem itself completely by the way it ends. It ends in the most Empire Strikes Back, Wrath of Khan style, which is something that sequels definitely need to do, whether it be a movie or a video game, so that they can toggle more emotion out of you. And along with feeling a little convoluted for me in the middle, there was a little spot in the middle where the writing started to fumble a little bit, and it made me wonder, is this written by the same guy who wrote Arkham Asylum, Paul Dini? And so I decided to wait until I had beaten the game to look at the credits and see if it was written by him. It was written by him, but it was also co-written by 2 other guys. Can't remember their names, unfortunately. But it was written by 2 other guys, and I think those 2 other guys are responsible for the little fallacies that I found in the script. Now I'm about to go into some mild spoiler territory. It's not the biggest spoilers, it's not nothing to the extent of the ending, but you know, it's something that you probably don't want to hear if you have not played the game and you want to go into this game fresh. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little spoiler tag down here, and once that spoiler tag disappears, you can then unmute the video or stop from skipping any more than you already have. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some things that have to do with the story that are a little spoilerish, so you've been warned. But there were some glitches in the writing, such as some minor conveniences that I thought were too convenient, like Batman needing a sword to access a secret entrance, and what happens next? A ninja drops from the ceiling, and he manages to disarm her, it's a her, and uses the sword in order to be able to access that secret entrance. And that is a minor gripe. I know it's nitpicking, it's me talking with a pole up my ass, but it just bugged me a little bit within that moment. What bugged me even more is what follows. I didn't like how at the end of the Mr. Freeze boss battle, Mr. Freeze went from, "I'm gonna kill you, Batman, if you don't get back my wife," to, "Please find my wife, please. Joker took her. You gotta go get her. That way you could also get your cure." I didn't like that sudden switch after Batman manages to beat him, because all of a sudden he was all sentimental. I mean, I would have liked to have for him to have kept the same ice cold personality. I'm sorry about the pun, but I would have liked them to keep some sort of consistency with his personality after he has gotten back his suit. But all of a sudden, he went back to how he was when Batman first found him without his suit. And the final thing would have to be when Batman pushes through that sewer lid and the poison starting to affect him. And then all of a sudden, the doors open and you see a bright light, and out comes the silhouette of his parents. And I automatically knew that it was his parents because it was what looked to be an elderly man and a woman. And I'm like, that's Bruce's parents. That bugged me a lot because Bruce was poisoned with a poison that affects him physically. It affects his organs, so that his organs are failing, not his mind. It made sense in Arkham Asylum for him to seek his parents and to relive the tragedy of his parents' death, which was actually one of the finer points of that game, because Scarecrow poisoned him with a hallucinogen. He's supposed to see that stuff. Here he's poisoned by something that is supposed to debilitate him physically. So I found it to be completely out of place and out of character for Batman to really fumble here mentally, considering that he has been, like the bio in the game says, he has trained to physical and mental perfection. So I didn't see why he's all of a sudden seeing his parents at the brink of death if he has come to the brink of death numerous times at this point. Okay, so that's the ending of my rant with some of the problems that I had with the script. But besides that, the rest of the story is still solid. The presentation for the game is amazing. The quality of the graphics are about the same as Arkham Asylum, therefore they're great. And the character design is still outstanding, mixing somewhat realism with that comic book feel, especially for the new characters that we didn't see in the previous Arkham Asylum game. A perfect example of that would have to be Two-Face. Two-Face was one of my favorite character designs because I loved how he kind of resembled the Two-Face from the animated series, while at the same time retaining certain qualities from the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movie. Especially the way the burnt side of his face was designed. It was awesome. While we're on the subject of character designs, in my opinion, I kind of wish that the Catwoman in this game was the Catwoman we had gotten in The Dark Knight Rises. With all due respect to Anne Hathaway, I really liked her. I thought her performance in that movie was good. But if I were to pick one, I would definitely have to go with this Catwoman because this is the solid embodiment of what I always perceived Catwoman to be. The voice work for this game is outstanding. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill coming back as both Batman and the Joker respectively. Terrific work, and the rest of the cast is amazing as well. Tara Strong as Harley Quinn, Troy Baker as Robin, as well as Two-Face. He was great, and Nolan North especially as the Penguin. I never found the Penguin to be intimidating. In fact, I always considered the Penguin to be one of my least liked characters in all of Batman mythology. I never thought of his character to be such an important villain like Two-Face or Joker, especially Joker, of course. But in this game, wow, not only did Nolan North make the Penguin intimidating, but he made it an essential part of the story. And of course, part of that is due to the writers, because I loved how they were able to take the Penguin and make him a form of a mobster, more so than just a comedic villain like he was in Batman Returns or in the animated series. He was actually a worthy opponent to Batman, and an intimidating one at that. And while we're on the subject of sound, the music in this game, holy rusted metal, Batman. I'm not even kidding. When I first booted this game up and the main menu loaded up, I just left it there. I didn't even go to the game. I didn't even start the game. I just left the menu alone and listened to the music because it's just so goosebump inducing. My only complaints about the characters would have to be that some of them, particularly villains, are reduced to some form of cameo, whether it be in a side mission, which I'll talk about later, or just a simple little scene where they all of a sudden appear to kind of move the story along. And another thing would have to be that, I can't remember, I would probably have to play Arkham Asylum just one more time, despite having played it already about 3 times. I'm probably going to have to play it again because I don't remember Batman over-explaining things as much as he did in this game. I just got out of a situation where he was talking the whole time and immediately he goes, I have to go to that building. Maybe he or she is in there. And once I get to the building, he points at things that I can clearly see and I can clearly understand. Yes, Batman, I know that that's a police officer. I should probably rescue him, right? And of course, we cannot forget one of the main characters of the game, Arkham City itself. The design for the city itself is very decrepit and dark, but it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a city designed to contain criminals, and of course, what better city to hold criminals than Arkham City? But the thing is that it's not exactly brimming with life life. And because of that, I didn't really feel any urge to explore every square inch of the city. However, the graphics and the particle effects, like such as the snow falling from the sky, make it awesome enough to look at as you leap from rooftop to rooftop. Now let's talk about the gameplay. The motto for the gameplay in this game is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Every gameplay mechanic from Arkham Asylum is back with a slight touch of polish. From the fluid combat to the smooth bat claw, zipline, travel from structure to structure, to the balanced stealth mechanics. Each aspect, however, was given just a few more tweaks to give you more to do, such as extra combinations, more takedowns, more stealth options, more ways for you to stun enemies, and a larger access to weapons and gadgetry. And you're surely going to need it to go up against more upgraded enemies than in the first game. This time they're carrying snipers, armor, night vision goggles. And speaking of upgraded, the upgrade system has returned, giving you the ability to spend your XP points on new and returning abilities and upgrades. And what's also new is the inclusion of side missions, like I mentioned earlier. Besides the main story, there are also other side missions that you can do within Arkham City that range from Batman villain encounters to stopping and or investigating random crimes, to also AR missions. There's not a whole lot of them, but because of that, they're very diverse. Not any two side missions are the same. And once you're done with all that, you can either explore more of Arkham City, or you can take on Riddler's challenge maps, which are very similar to the challenge maps from Arkham Asylum, only they come with new modifiers to either make the challenge easier or more difficult. The Riddler himself also has his famous trophies and riddles scoured throughout Arkham City for you to collect and solve respectively. Now, even though I am in the minority that kind of prefers Arkham Asylum over Arkham City just a little bit, and that's probably due to how fresh Arkham Asylum was, whether it be the story or the character designs or the gameplay. It is still a superb game that is filled with an awful lot of things that I loved about the first game, along with some other new things and elements that sequels should have to make this game one of the must-own games for either Batman fans or just simply superhero action game fans. I give Batman Arkham City a 9.4 out of 10, which is an A. Now before I wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the bonus DLC that came with the Game of the Year edition. First up, we're going to go ahead and talk about the bonus packs that it comes with. It comes with the Catwoman pack, the Robin bundle pack, the Nightwing bundle pack, the Arkham City skins pack, and some bonus challenge map packs. Packs. And most of this is either, like I said, challenge maps, some extra challenge maps, or some bonus skins for some of the characters that you get to play as. Now, some of these skins are a little limited, some of them are not. For example, the bonus skins for Batman are available either in the challenge maps mode or in the story mode. You can also access the skins in the story mode as well. But for characters such as Robin or even Nightwing, they're limited to the challenge mode. And the challenge mode is the only place where you can play as Nightwing, which is kind of unfortunate because Nightwing is a very cool character to play as. I played as him, and just the fluidity of his combat and the sharp movement and how quick he is, almost as quick as Catwoman, I love that. However, and kind of fortunate, the same can't be said about either Robin or Catwoman. You can play as Catwoman in the main story mode, as well as revisit her missions from the story mode in a separate little module in the main menu. However, you can only play as Robin either in the challenge maps or in the bonus story DLC, which I'm going to talk about right now. However, this bonus DLC is a little spoilerish for the main story. In fact, in the main menu, when you highlight the bonus DLC, there's gonna, in parentheses, it literally says contains spoilers from the main story. Kudos to Rocksteady for pointing that out, because hardly any game developers do. But because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and once again put a little spoiler tag right here, because not only do some of the things that I didn't like about the story DLC are a little spoilerish, not only because of the story, but also because of what happens within the DLC, but also because the title itself is somewhat of a spoiler. It doesn't give away everything, but you hear the title and you're able to put two and two together and be like, okay, that's what happens at the end of Arkham City. So because of that, spoiler warning. But the story DLC is called Harley Quinn's Revenge, and if you couldn't already tell, this takes place after the events of Arkham City and what Harley Quinn decides to do to extract her revenge upon Batman. And this bonus DLC is actually quite fun. It actually did a really great job at portraying Batman's reaction to what happened at the end of Arkham City, because from you could tell Batman's not going to be the same. So that gets portrayed quite well in this bonus DLC. And we get a lot more Robin, whether it be to play as him or to see him interact with Batman and Oracle and see what kind of character he is. What I didn't like about this DLC is that it's incredibly short. It literally took me just 2 hours to beat the story. And I do know that I still have to pop those balloons, which is the only other thing that you get to do in this DLC as you go along. But it only took me 2 hours. It's incredibly short. And sometimes the shortness of the DLC would get kind of forced because there were certain points where I entered a certain door and I wanted to come back out of that door to explore this other room that I forgot to explore in case I want to go ahead and pop all of those balloons. But I couldn't do that. It wouldn't let me. Either Robin or Batman would say, I have to go do this. And it wouldn't let me back out. So I didn't like that the exploration for the DLC was just a little limited, especially when I was within the steel mill. And this is called Harley Quinn's Revenge, but it should be called Harley Quinn's Attempt at Revenge, because this has to be one of the more stupidest, half-baked revenge plans I have ever seen. But hey, it's Harley Quinn. Batman himself has even said in Arkham Asylum and in Arkham City that Harley Quinn is not particularly bright. Still, you get the magnificent game Arkham City along with all this bonus content for about 20 bucks, maybe even 16 if you found it on Amazon. It's still a great deal. That about does it for my review of Arkham City. Thank you guys for watching.
And as always, take care. Hockey pads!
And blending them together, that way they can help each other out, be complementary to one another. There's no development in the characters despite the fact that you actually do run into some characters that you look at, you hear what they have to say, the funny lines that they're given, and the look of how they're designed